Trying to get rid of stuff.
Well, that's a good idea. I wish we could do that. Our house is full.
Our house is full, our barn is full, our outbuildings are full. It's overdue. If you need anything, let me know. This is supposed to be.
I guess so.
Yeah. Let's go, see. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
All right, how are you?
I'm
Sitting aside.
Is anybody, is Rebecca?
Rebecca and
Hi,
Tanisha.
Rebecca's here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you see us, Rebecca?
I cannot see you. There's a little camera icon. Well, now there's the
Okay.
Woodstock emblem, but we can hear
Right.
you. Tanisha and I are here.
Huh.
It looks like you've got your video off in the bottom left corner, see the little red line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you do that, it just looks like there's some kind of an error.
There we go.
Hey,
Because I have a new laptop. How does that look?
hey everyone. Thanks for accommodating.
That's true. Yeah, of course. Okay.
Who's there to the right? Is that what? Who's the person? Is that John or?
Yeah, John.
Oh,
I
hey
can't
John.
see
You're good to take notes,
I
John?
can do it
Sorry.
this way. Okay. Well, here comes Deborah. All right. Hopefully you can hear us okay. I've got this up on the bookshelf. It's 5:20. Deborah. And meeting is starting. Let's start with quality heard. Just listen.
Well, just to reintroduce myself, I'm part of the Climate Smart. Just finished a major review of Woodstock's carbon emissions with the Hudson Valley Regional Center. And housing is one of the major emission sources in Woodstock, as you might imagine. And I expect this committee would have some responsibility for addressing that problem.
It's absolutely top. And it will be part of our housing action plan.
Well, probably part of your housing plan.
It will be, the end goal, for me anyway, is to create a housing action plan. That will suggest strategies to create housing.
Well, any housing plan beginning in 26, new construction will need to have heat pumps, what is required by the state. So, and there are grants and there's programs to help you support that. But, I would think those sorts of initiatives would really be the responsibility of this committee.
Sure. Thank you. All right, on to the June minutes. Lisa, any comment on the minutes?
They suck.
No,
they
Fine.
Did you have?
well, I was going to see you. She fixed some misery. So.
I'll second it.
Library fair recap. I'm so sorry I missed it. Looked like it was a good day, but I did have fun setting it up. Any general takeaways?
So in the afternoon, it was pretty quiet. There wasn't, I was there at 2 o'clock and there was very, I talked to maybe 2 people, but I had a great time talking to Susan Gold.
Oh, good.
I'd never met her, so we caught up
great.
on a lot of things.
Yes.
And I did talk to a few people about the share program. Wow, so it's fun.
Okay. Anybody, did you try to engage people with the poster?
I tried, but people just.
I did a fake post to try to fix it, and it fell off. I didn't get any action.
Yeah,
It was just
Yeah, but you're at 4 o'clock, though.
yeah.
dead.
4 o'clock's tough.
By 2, people were just, they've been there, done that.
I had probably 6 to 10 people start a conversation.
Yeah, I was there before you, and I had a lot of people requiring this
It's in with all the stuff.
specific information about, just
What
wanted
do
to
you
know what we
know?
were doing and looking at what was going, looking at all the posters. and
We look
whatnot.
at the house.
They did, and, nobody made any comments. The only
Catherine?
person of interaction was somebody who was interested in home share.
Yes.
And I gave her the information we had, thinking that it was only Woodstock, but then found out, about a half an hour later, that it, home share is also, Saugerties is part of it. I think you told me that.
No.
Oh,
No,
no,
Kingston.
Kingston County Park. Kingston
But not
Development.
Saugerties, somebody told me that they include.
I'll
Saugerties.
live in it.
Pardon?
Olive is.
Maybe finish.
Well, the Woodstock thing actually extends out into Olive, Kingston's doing its own separate program under families. Susan explained it to me that it can't all happen out of the Woodstock program because it's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 10, there were 10 matching and an 11th in the works, which is really, really good. It's great.
The rent for those, I asked about that, you know.
Home share rents.
Yeah, it's not
Under 600.
Oh, great.
So, and they have to just
Okay,
do
package them.
some chores or take, partake in the household.
Like in exchange for 10 hours a week or something.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, that's awesome.
Can you guys hear us?
Oh, Tanisha?
Yeah, Sarah's saying she can't hear you.
Okay. Should we move the laptop closer, do you think?
If you guys can hear us, she should be able to hear us, unless she has her.
Sometimes I'm
It's-
quiet. So.
It's pretty echoey, but we're doing our best to listen.
Well, nobody's doing anything anyway, we're not like demonstrating anything.
I was gonna say you could put it on the corner of the table or something, yeah.
On top of that, it's a graphic.
No. How's that look? Can you hear better?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to do much about the echo, but we'll do our best to listen and
There's an
pop in. Yeah, the room is kind of echoey, but it's all good.
Okay.
We'll try to speak echo free.
What?
So the one conversation I had at the fair was interesting. It was actually, and there were obviously, as often is the case, there are a lot of people not from Woodstock. I always ask when people come to the table, do you live in Woodstock? You
Right.
know, and many people said, probably the majority said no. But one woman who doesn't live in Woodstock comes to Woodstock every year, comes to the library fair because her in-laws come here, and she's from Massachusetts. And it turns out that she works in the Community Preservation
Oh.
Act
Yeah. Oh,
program
perfect.
in Massachusetts. She works in urban areas, but she knows of it happening in rural areas around Massachusetts. So she did write her contact information down on the sheet.
Oh, good.
And I said I would get in touch with her.
Great.
Yeah, so that was very positive. That was kind of it.
I met with 2 couples who were just there because they recently moved here and were looking for ways to get involved in the town, just trying to understand. They were just going through all the tables to see what different groups were doing.
Cool.
Were they
One
interested
person
in
was very
housing?
interested in ADUs, and one person from Minnesota who was trying to figure out what other towns were doing, working on the same issue there. And a couple, frankly, slightly crazy people.
Well, their floats was.
Any comments on the handouts? Did people take the handouts, or were they mostly people? A couple of people that came who actually were in Woodstock, were Woodstockers, did take the handouts.
Good.
And that was very encouraging. And in conversations, I just remembered about that too. These are people who never really were engaged in the issue before and didn't know what we were doing, and
Okay,
it was
good.
very interesting.
Well, that's
to
good.
them.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had people take, and
Oh,
they didn't talk much, but they just took information.
okay, good. In the past years, we've given away lots of handouts, but.
Anything else about the library fair?
The two little houses were very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are from 3 years ago or 4 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago.
Pre-pandemic.
The guy
Yeah.
who made them passed by.
Oh, did he?
Very nice.
Oh, yeah, good.
Rennie Canty?
No, it's not that guy. who made it.
Oh,
It's someone else.
Oh, Rennie made the big house.
yeah, which
I
reminds
met the
me,
guy that made it too, isn't married to. Was there a switch of women? There was a woman there that was before Deborah. The last, isn't that the woman's name that you mentioned? Oh, terrible.
Susan Goldman.
Susan Goldman. So there was another woman there before Susan, or was it just Susan?
There were a
Susan
couple other
and-
women before.
Because there was somebody there when I said hi to you the first time,
Yeah.
that was her husband. Because he was like, and I live with her too.
The big house.
The big
right?
house
Yeah,
that's
we
now
were
at my
there.
house. So I don't have, don't have a place to store it undercover, so, and I noticed that it's starting to deteriorate. We should do something with it. I mean,
Mhm.
Stain it,
huh?
stain it.
It is pretty well finished, but it's the end grains of parts that are exposed, and I try to turn them around and cover them, but my fear is that every time I cover something, critters get in it,
Right. Well, now there's all these.
rattlesnakes.
Yeah, everybody's fine. My dog got bit by
Oh,
it. And
Where?
I just
That's
was
not on the
like,
mountain?
I went to the vet yesterday with another. And the doctor was like, yeah, she found one in her yard, and a lot of people, Saturdays are finding them in their yards. They're coming down the mountain. It's hot.
Oh,
But it's interesting that they come down here because it's hotter,
So,
right?
go back
Unless
to
it's
the
just
house.
so hot.
Back to the house.
Back to the house.
It needs, it
we
needs.
were talking
Well-
about putting it together and trying to auction it off as a playhouse to somebody.
Right, but, so I have said this in the past, it needs a lot of work to become a safe playhouse,
Yeah.
because there are so many rough edges to it,
Well,
and you have to cut, windows and doors.
Is there anyone
Not
you
that
can think
usable.
of to reach out to as a volunteer who is good at woodworking, who might be able to, I mean, I know.
I think I
Couple
can put it
people-
together. I think I
I
can
don't
do
wanna-
that.
I don't wanna
But the thing is, how do I get it
volunteer.
after it's put together? How do you transport it?
Where would
We should try.
Yeah,
And-
it's a big thing.
Well, it's about 4 foot by 4 foot, I think.
Maybe geezers would help.
The what?
The geezers.
I mean,
It's
the
like
other
little guys
thing,
structures.
Oh,
the other thing that Susan said is, you can go back where it was, which is on the corner by Clouds of Rock City Road and Mill Hill Road. That's where we had it
oh,
when we first built it, and the Goldmans own that property, so it's
Oh, they do?
available. Mhm.
What if we painted it with like a waterproof kind of finishing, like if we can cover the edges, and then we just do like a waterproof, like basement paint, but then we could paint it too, like make it into the logo, like with the rainbow thing, and maybe have some information that people would, those takeaway boxes with the little.
code to our.
Yeah, with the QR code could be the roofing,
Right,
that look good.
yes, it would. Who wants to do it?
Yeah.
well, I can certainly put it together and make it safe,
Okay,
but,
but are we using it for promotion, or are we trying to give it
Right,
away?
that's the question.
that's the question. But the thing is, if I was to put it together at my house, how would I transmit it? Unless,
We need to have something with the truck,
Somebody with a big
Yeah.
truck.
I have a little truck.
which is not impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd get pretty heavy though, once it's put together.
So how are we gonna how are we gonna do the outreach to offer it to the community, or?
If that's what we wanna do, and do you wanna look at it first and maybe put it back on the corner? And then have it,
So we can just do that if we want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So which corner is it?
Where Clouds, that nice gift shop is?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Across the chocolate place.
It is a space where we had it before.
Like next to the store.
Next to the store and a little bit.
Oh, there used to be like a rock
Rock
thing there.
It actually fit very nicely.
This is on the side of the street that,
Rock City, on the Rock City side, not on the Mill Hill side.
but on which side of Rock City?
The side where Clouds,
Between Clouds and Yum Yum,
correct.
Oh,
right,
oh,
yeah.
between the driveway and Clouds. I guess.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think it'd be cute if we painted it the colors.
I might be able to pick, find a picture, because we do take pictures of
Mhm, I
of
remember
our
that.
community.
Yeah, by the house.
By the house.
It's red, I think. All right, so have we decided anything? We're gonna try to fix it up and put it on the corner.
Make it cute.
Yeah, and make it more promotional.
I think it'd be really easy to do the exact same colors too. I mean,
Mhm.
it's-
It might have the logo on it, I'm trying to remember.
I don't think so.
Oh, it doesn't?
Your new
Yeah.
design that your daughter did?
Well, that, actually, the logo was designed previously, and then my daughter changed the type. Because we changed it from Woodstock Community Homes to the Housing Committee. Woodstock
Well, we
Housing
could
Committee.
paint that on and then
Right.
paint the whole outside in
Yeah,
stripes.
the big one looks like the little ones that were on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we should have a subcommittee.
Yeah, who wants to be in the?
So Howard get it, evaluate if there's.
Well, I might be
done,
able
and
to-
then if he's able to fix it up, then Lisa take on the creative.
I may be able to figure out how to put it together at my house without putting it together, and then bring the parts down there and then assemble it there.
Then I could paint it like that too, which would be a lot easier
All
than
right.
paint that bright.
I'll look at that.
So you guys will.
So Howard and
Or we
Lisa.
could get it shrink.
You guys are the subcommittee.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
have a
that's a
subcommittee
dirty
of
word.
cars.
Oh.
Just like vacuum form. And it's
Oh.
whatever.
Okay, great. So anything else on library fair? Guess not. HRNA deliverables, here's the big thing.
Yeah.
And we got so much good stuff from them. And I thought maybe we could go through each deliverable and maybe say a few general impressions about each one, and then figure out how we can process all of this and use it. Which is hard part.
Where to start?
Well, let's just start with the survey, I guess.
That was.
I was looking at that more
Hard to
closely
read.
today.
Yeah,
Kind
I
of hard to
feel like they
read.
should made conclusions about the survey. They didn't do that. They just listed all the responses, right?
No, they did. Well, you could see.
Was there a summary at the end that I just didn't see?
No, there wasn't, but
There
there
were
was.
visual, there were graphs, like it took me a while because I saw the Google
Graphs.
Doc. They
Oh,
do
there
have
were
like graphs, so at
graphs,
least the
right,
data was
right, right.
visualized, but
Right,
nothing else.
The percentage of responses, like I printed out one.
Yeah, yeah.
For example.
What I noticed in the survey mostly is that the population was quite old. who filled out the survey.
Exactly. Which I think did skew the results.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of over 65, a lot of homeowners. So,
I think because of that, it's hard to know what you really
yeah,
can do with it.
Right, it felt like we didn't reach the people who were in need.
right,
Reach people who have an opinion.
Instagram,
Huh?
Instagram.
maybe, I just don't know.
You can do surveys on Instagram and just
Mhm.
click things
Hmm.
on the actual video.
But if you ignore the fact, which you can't, that it's not representative, were there any findings or any patterns that people thought were interesting?
Yeah, I was also wondering if they gave us any analysis of the survey, since they've done surveys
They did
elsewhere.
in the community engagement plan, so if you
Okay.
haven't read through that, you should
Right.
read through that.
We'll do that.
I don't have it in front of me. I mean, I think what universal theme is that everyone is concerned about preserving our environment and preserving our space. Just the way the housing committee is, I mean, we all have the same concerns.
Right.
I think the two groups that everyone felt needed housing were seniors and local workers. What else did I write down? People are, a high priority is preserving the local character of the buildings and also the rural quality. of the town.
But if you say that that's a theme that comes out of it, but then you connect that to the fact that it's all old people with houses,
Mhm.
what do you do then?
You're saying that the survey recipient,
The survey respondents.
responded, but it is true that the census says that Woodstock has a large older population, so that's not, that's an actual.
So that might be representative.
But I don't think it's representative. I mean, this was like 2/3 or something of the respondents were over 65.
I mean, so I guess my question is, do they, in their analysis, account for those kinds of I guess we do call them skewed results because they're not representative of the actual community at large.
And even within the group of 65-year-olds, you don't know who's responding, right? Because it wasn't a random sample, it was a, who wants to respond, please tell us what you think. And so it's the people who were motivated to go respond and fill it out that you have there.
But isn't that always the case? with
No, if
surveys?
you do a survey properly, you do a random sample, and so you try to get the people.
Oh, that, okay, versus just
Saying who shows
self-select.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, well, as Rebecca and I had a phone call this morning, since she wasn't able to come tonight. Rebecca pointed out, like, the people who need the housing are the ones who don't have time to fill out surveys because they're working so hard to.
I was gonna say I couldn't get like a lot of engagement from people under 65. And most of the things we were putting out, it was just mostly, you know, that population that was responding and engaging.
Yeah, I mean, what you're summarizing, Catherine, yeah, I think we know the people that we're trying to serve here are likely not gonna have the time or flexibility to, you know, come to these meetings, fill out these surveys and things like that. So the question is, how do we really reach them and make sure that we're hearing from them, and matching that up?
Unless we go door to door. I mean,
Right.
I've spoken to a lot of like, design people go out and by myself instead of the bar, so bartenders. And I tell them about this and everyone is like, oh my God, like I'm working 3 jobs, like that would be amazing, because they live in Palinville or in Hunter, so many people live in Hunter. That's a schlep in the winter time, that's like no fun, and it costs a lot to go up and down on your car gets beat up, the brakes go. So, but the only way that I think, since they work so much, is if we were able to just like bring flyers in and say like, hey, like maybe a little thing, it's like, here's your QR
into
code.
shops and restaurants.
Yeah,
and
it'd be
bars.
really great if you filled this out, because we're trying to cater to you.
Family of Woodstock.
You could say like, do you work in Woodstock? You know, like,
You did have that as one of the questions.
but like on the flyer, so. people will pick it up.
Yeah, but if you did that, I would think to the end, and what would you do with it? I mean, I feel like we kind of know what we need to do. It's a huge
Right.
problem, and it's
Yeah, I
all
agree.
hands on deck,
Yeah.
and we want to try to do what we can
Right.
to address it, and we know we have to do it in a way that's sensitive to the character of the town, to the environment. And so,
Right.
Yeah.
in some ways, the survey to me doesn't seem like a central need.
Yeah, but I think it was good to give people an opportunity to express their opinions, and I do think that the over 65 crowd is obviously an important group in this town, so it's good to have those
I
results.
also
come
think when you
together.
involve younger people, because they have the energy and the stamina to get involved, they will. Like, community organizing really works with young people, doesn't it work?
Yeah, and actually, oftentimes in surveys and outreach, I kind of agree with you, it's the act of interacting with somebody more than it is applying it to a particular solution.
Door to door at the end of the year before the election. Mine.
So, you know, in some ways, the survey is a misnomer, because it's really more of an outreach effort.
But it would be strange to say we don't care in that outreach effort what people say, that we're only doing it to
Oh,
listen to
no,
them.
no, I don't think you're saying that.
Right.
You know, you're mishearing what I'm
I
saying.
think the
It's not
next
a question
survey should be like,
At all.
here's a project that we want.
Right,
I think
what do you
should
think
be
of
good, what do you
this?
think
Yeah.
of
More
this project?
specific,
Right.
absolutely.
To get feedback.
Yeah, I think
know,
we're past the
yeah.
initial survey stage.
Right,
now.
exactly.
We're in a new stage.
Yeah.
But just even to say to somebody, I mean, just by virtue of interacting with them, you care about what they say. It would be a waste of our time and theirs. You know,
How much space
John-
do you
yeah.
need to have a living space? Like, how far do you need to be away, or can you be away from your workspace? You know,
I mean, the other thing
how much
is,
time would you save if you lived in the community?
and, you know, this is different from what HRA did, obviously, which is
Right.
much more of their standard thing, but some of the questions that you're asking, it's almost like you, might have been before you came to the housing committee, where we had these focus groups,
That was before.
and then it was before COVID, and then everything kind of shut down, but we had small groups. And they were random, and we just met with folks and we just had a conversation. And it brought up some of those things that you were mentioning, Lisa, and it was really valuable.
Well, that's what we tried to do.
What?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that was
So that was
Just
the
that we
first
could
one.
tailor the specificities of what the needs are, because that whole grid that they gave us with the prices and everything was
We'll get
insane.
there, we're not there yet.
So, but you know, like that might be a way to shrink numbers and shrink space and.
I think I think the size of those units was not accurate, but
Well,
in any case.
well, yeah, so,
Price per square foot.
so we're on the survey results, right?
Yeah,
And
so
that's-
any more on survey stuff? I mean, I do, it's. Rebecca
I
had
guess
an interesting idea.
Sarah wanted me to say that she handed out surveys to some younger people and none of them heard of it. I
Okay.
added that I think we probably should have put more interest in putting things in Family of Woodstock because a lot of younger people that are, transient, pass through there.
Right.
That's all.
Okay, thanks, Tanisha and Sarah. So,
More homes to see.
yeah.
All the time.
That's not good.
Notes from the community workshop. There's a lot to take in there.
Yeah.
I got the impression that a lot of people mentioned environmental issues. And it's like they were assuming that if we build affordable housing and had multifamily housing, that's gonna be sacrificed.
Right,
When the
exactly,
zoning code actually does the opposite.
right.
And I think they don't understand that.
Misconception.
Oh, yeah, I think,
They think it's like an either or situation,
Yeah.
but we're talking about having both,
yeah.
preserving the environment and creating housing that blends in with the town and the environment, so.
There's this group that is pushing to not change the zoning.
City
Yeah.
Woodstock.
Yeah, they're passing along misinformation. And, who was it that was telling me that their sign, when you come into, right
Right, by Kachina,
by Kachina there, that it's illegal?
yes, Susan Golden.
Yeah.
They
And
just put
so,
it up like guerrilla style.
We don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, I don't wanna,
We
yeah,
probably
it
shouldn't
might,
say.
I don't wanna.
it might be illegal.
Okay, so I would really suggest that there are people in this town, it's true, there's a lot of misinformation, whether it's from a sign or letters in the paper. And I think what we've been trying to do is to present facts, questions, opportunities for dialogue. And that's what this committee is really focusing on. So regardless of that situation, which I really think we should get too far.
Do you think it would behoove us to have a meeting with them?
We don't even know who them is.
Yeah, we don't.
It's anonymous group. It's anonymous.
No, it's anonymous. Yeah, I would suggest we not put our energies in there, right, personally.
I think the way
Just
to
been-
do it, when I was at the fair and Susan Goldman was next to me, there was a woman sitting with us whose name I forget, it was quite elderly. And it turned out she was meant to be at the Democrats booth the whole time, but she's been a long time, but she finally realized, she said, where's the election? So I said, do you mean to be at the Democrats? And she was there for an hour talking, but Susan said, I noticed you have a Save Woodstock sign in your yard, can we talk about that? And Susan had a very direct, calm, informative conversation with her. She said, well, they want to build some huge development and that's somebody so-and-so wants to build a development in the middle of town and that's why they want to change the zoning. Susan said, and Susan was just really good at having that very calm, factual conversation. And that's what it needs to be. I think Deborah's just reinforcing what Deborah's saying. And I'm not informed enough to do it, but it was brilliant to watch. It was really encouraging. Anyway.
So back to the notes.
And I think that speaks to how important the community workshop
is.
Yes.
That we did, and the notes, and the fact that people did have the opportunity to express themselves, whatever their views were. I think it was all very, it was a very good space for people to participate.
Yeah, it did seem like people didn't want to stop talking at 8
Yeah.
o'clock. I was like, okay, we're done. We're like, oh, they didn't seem to want.
Right.
So that was a good sign.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of notes about people wanting to have more of these kinds of discussions. A couple of tables said that the town should have a paid planning department, not a volunteer group. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
A bunch of people mentioned the idea of using existing properties and renovating them.
Yeah, I keep hearing that. I heard
Yeah,
that
I
on
like
there
that
too.
idea
People
too.
keep.
Everybody
saying
likes that idea. It's just
Yeah.
hard to find the properties.
Right.
It's also hard to execute. I think it's a great
Yeah.
idea, but you have to have a fund or something because
Right.
you have to either subsidize it or do it directly.
Unless a developer does.
Well, there's a bunch of these flippers running around town. I see them doing it all
Right,
the
but
time.
where are the houses? I mean, people say, oh, find abandoned houses. Well, there's
Yeah.
no abandoned houses in Woodstock as far as I know.
What there's like one woman talked to me next to Cub Market, there's a property for sale that has
Oh, right.
several different places to stay on it, and could the town take something like that? But if you leave it in the market, it's gonna stay market rate. The only way it's gonna
Right.
be affordable is if you get it outside of the market rate, so then you need a fund for doing that or a strategy for doing that.
Exactly.
I think that's part of the sort of, mission of the, Woodstock Housing Alliance, is to be able to be that entity, because that's what they do in other places. We were talking about Wellfleet. There's this whole former campground with little cottages on it that's gonna become affordable housing outside of Wellfleet. And it's being done through the Wellfleet Housing Trust and some other funds that they were able to assemble. And they're in a planning stage, a community planning stage right
I'm on
now.
their email list now.
Oh,
I saw
okay, you're getting
the
that.
conversation this weekend, but that's a town, it's great. If you guys didn't see that email,
Yeah.
they will get a lot of emails, and so if that one slipped through, if you go to Wellfleet's housing thing, boy, they.
Amazing.
No, I just went to their
Oh,
webpage because of their
okay.
email.
No, I know that, but I just.
No, I
my
sent it
interest
to
was,
the
you know, I
committee.
got it, yes.
And, the other thing that just to point out is that Wellfleet has a year-round population of around 3,000 people. Much smaller.
And
than-
a summer population of
Right.
20.
Yeah. So it's similar in that way.
Yeah.
They don't have sewer system, everything's septic, and so they're trying to figure that out.
Is that in
That sounds
Massachusetts?
similar.
Actually,
Yeah,
they
it's
actually
like,
did put together,
We have
there is a
place in the next
small,
town.
no, you're right, there isn't, there's a town water system that you were able to opt into, but they don't have sewers. Yeah, that's a problem. They have.
They have all the tourists that come in the summer, so they have so many problems that are like Woodstock.
Exactly, very similar.
So anyway, they've put together programs, like if you wanted to do a program for subsidizing ADUs, they have. How do you do it, and what are the requirements for keeping it affordable, how long you have to do it for, if you take the money, and so.
And the town actually has a law, an affordable ADU law, which allows for certain kinds of incentives for the homeowner, because
They have a $10,000 forgivable grant, so
Oh,
that,
that's great.
but you have to,
That comes from
Commit.
town funds?
yeah, I don't know where the funding comes from, but.
Oh, it is Community Preservation Act.
But you commit to keeping the rents in a certain range for a certain number of years to qualify for the grant.
Right.
Anyway, wasn't it?
yeah, it's good to have that information.
Rebecca had an interesting suggestion this morning. She said you can use AI to summarize content. And she's gonna try to run it through.
Oh, and summarize the discussion notes, that's a
Yes.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said, well, I don't trust AI, so let's see how it works, but. it's
Yeah,
worth
I
a
totally
try.
get it. Yeah, it's some, I've been really impressed with its ability to summarize text. And if you give it the right prompts and ask for the right things, it'll kind of spit it back out. So it's really good at doing that. So I mean, it would be a way to sort of comb through and see trends and themes of the data. Obviously, we should be reading through it and gleaning individual things from it ourselves. But I'm happy to see how that works, and we can always cross-reference it with our analysis and see if it did a good job. And see if that's
It'd be
useful
worth-
for processing data later.
So we could let AI write an article for the
Newsletter, exactly.
I mean, I actually tried it out at my work
Oh,
yesterday, at the prompting of my supervisor. We were looking at something, and I'd written something, and then he said, well, put it through, Gemini, put it through, and I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. No. But I tried it, and then I edited it and made it make sense, and it was actually better than I thought. It was-
Yeah, it's really.
So it's come a long way since the early versions of it.
So maybe that'll be helpful. I mean, but I talked to Rebecca today about working on a newsletter, but I was hoping the outreach subcommittee, so Sabina, Rebecca, and Tanisha could work on somehow digesting all of these notes and results and coming up with a newsletter by September. Rebecca's got her thumb up, so that's good.
Yeah, no, I'll start
She does her
an
thumb
email
up on
chain.
Monday.
Oh, here, I'll go again.
It's gonna take her 10 minutes with her AI.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'll start an email chain with some ideas, and we can, plan our next meeting and talk about
Yeah,
this.
we did promise the community that we would share the results of our survey and the workshop, so I think a newsletter is a good way to deliver those results.
So is the survey, the workshop, is there anything else that needs
I
to be
think-
summed up for the newsletter? As a
I
I mean, do you want to talk about the HRNA report and what it included, or leave that out? Is their work is done?
I don't know. I don't know if people were that interested in HRNA as an
I
entity.
think I'd wait.
honestly.
I think I would wait for a future time, especially
Yeah.
since the housing action plan is gonna incorporate some of that, and we can talk about them and their work
Mhm.
in there. And then, because these are things that the community was involved with, and so I think sharing that back to the
I
community.
think that's right. Yeah.
Well, the playbook was well produced, but I don't know if you can get somebody to sit through the whole thing.
No, it's
Well,
for
it's
us.
just for
Yeah.
us.
It's
Yeah.
just for us.
Yeah, but I mean, if it was informative anyway.
Yeah,
even as a
it's
piece
really
by
well written.
itself.
That they did a good job.
AI.
We had two very smart women doing it, that's what I think.
Interesting.
And they're graphic designers, so.
Yeah, the graphic design
Over
was great.
stroller.
So they can't quite see that graphic design in a housing action plan, but maybe.
I think it's perfect for Woodstock. It totally
Yeah,
has like our.
Okay.
Our vibe.
Yeah.
And again, Wellfleet has a similar
Lovely.
document, and
Mhm.
having all those graphs and the tables and
Yes,
things
that's,
will be super handy to
That's why I
cherry pick
asked
those
for those.
things to.
yeah, to put into our plan.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
also
we should have a
gonna,
section in the newsletter which says next steps.
Oh,
Mhm.
good.
Which
Good.
for us,
idea.
which for us may be looking about, we'll talk about it as we get further ahead, long agenda. About looking at the town on land and
yes,
whatever, so,
yeah.
but
Well, I
just
think-
reporting back to the community.
I think we, as a group, learned a lot about what the community wants.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It was very informative.
Mhm.
Maybe we didn't get quite the broad response and engagement that we wanted, but we did get a lot of
Yeah.
engagement, so. I think it's all good. The playbook, so we just mentioned, that's gonna have a lot of good stuff for our housing action plan, but it's also very informative. The whole idea of infill development, which is filling in small pockets in the town, I think is something we learned about this year, and the idea of soft density.
What does that mean, soft density?
Meaning it's not like building an apartment building that is very dense,
See,
soft.
sounds very Woodstock.
Exactly.
Airport here.
And just the idea that we need more homes that are small footprints. That was stressed in the playbook too, so, which is an obvious thing, but it's not that obvious to some people. And then the financial feasibility study, I'm still wrapping my head around that. I wrote
Is this
down-
the Excel spreadsheet? you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yes.
I want to read that again.
And we did report, I sent the recording around.
Right.
And Francis still has to update because John had made the point about what's the hierarchy of these factors that were listed at the bottom of each pro forma. She hasn't sent that yet, so I think she was away this week.
My take on it was it's something that'll be useful in the future,
Mm-hmm.
potentially.
Yes.
If you're trying to, if you identify a place where you could build something and you have different options, and then you could sort of
Mhm.
say, if we did a cottage thing here versus,
Right.
you know, houses that were fourplexes,
Mhm.
what would be the financial trade-offs? But until you're actually at that stage, I don't really know
Right.
why you need, you know, it's gonna be helpful, but not yet.
It's gonna change them.
Yeah, but, so my two takeaways, I was surprised, honestly, because I thought the larger apartment complex would be the only one that would work financially. But they said the fourplex worked. If 3 of the apartments were market rate, so we'd have to play
Yeah.
around with that.
And the other one was at 100%
Yeah.
AMI, so
Right,
working is really in quotes.
yeah, I know. But the idea that it could work was kind of encouraging, because I just didn't think it would work at all, honestly.
Well, did they say, did that ability to make it work, was that given the fact that it was on town-owned land?
Yes, town on land is a big part of it.
Yes.
But for the town to donate land to basically help one person buy a non-market rate apartment, and that person is at 100% of Kingston's AMI, that's.
Right, well, but I think we just need more rental housing, period. It's not just, it can't, I mean, I think it'd be great to have all 4 units be affordable, but just even to offer 2 or 4 people a rental apartment that's nice and new and, I mean, we need that too.
I think if you're talking about town on land, you may or may not just be speaking about one fourplex.
Yeah, it'd be a cluster
I mean,
for.
you could have a cluster. I mean, I always like, you know, I go on to Orchard Lane and I drive around and I see the houses there. And they're, you know, or Pine Grove or something. I mean, that's old Woodstock. Sort of artists that you're not in your head, check it, because, you know, it really, that to me is the scale and character. I mean, they could still be modern, but if it was a slightly larger and it was 4 units within a building like that, which would be like enormous, like some of the new houses on my road
Right.
for single family, it would
That's
be
for sure,
smaller.
you've got the
and-
biggest house.
Yeah, but you know, so I think so looking at the pro forma from that perspective and looking at town on land in terms of what is I mean, I guess you could call it the buildability or the carrying capacity of a piece of land, right? Both from an environmental standpoint and the other factors that have to come into it, which comes to kind of your list of criteria that you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is all part of the process. So this idea that you're just coming up with one thing and you're, you know, and then people, I react to that one thing without these more nuanced attributes and aspects of it. So it's not black and white.
Well, I think it's useful just to look at all of the different inputs, right,
Yeah.
that you can play around with to make
Oh, I
something
like
work. Right,
But,
yeah.
but the other, I don't mean to sound negative,
Mhm.
but I guess it is, but a takeaway from the spreadsheets is if you want to help people who are not up to AMI, you need more than town on land. You're gonna have to
Right.
raise money some other way. And I feel like.
Yeah.
That's,
That's why we need to we either need to pass the Community Preservation Act or create a housing action fund, right?
you look at places
Housing.
like Red Hook and I think
Yeah,
Wellfleet
they're
that are
doing.
getting there, they found ways to
Exactly.
have money that's not
Yes,
coming.
They're doing.
That is one thing you really need to have a recommendation for, which Deborah is going to tell us about in a couple of minutes. The other takeaway was the pocket neighborhood wasn't so far from working, which made me very happy because the idea of a cluster of little houses around a central, you know, garden or something like that is just lovely to me. Like I would like to live in a place like that. And that again, though, only works if there's some assistance for the homeownership, like if the town could, had a Housing Action Plan or Community Preservation Act, fund where you could provide down payment assistance to these homeowners, so. Well, you guess you can borrow money, but
Maybe the banks would be incentivized if they're willing to help assist with.
they're not gonna give you money though. They're going to lend it to you. That's.
Maybe they might have like
Special interest rate.
first home buyer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's programs for that, but I don't think banks give money away, do they?
No, but they might advance it, you know, like.
Yeah, of course, for a mortgage,
Right, with a low special interest rate, maybe a program with us.
right? Rocco has programs like that, yeah. So,
Habitat for Humanity is doing things like that as well. She spoke about it at our workshop.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Habitat.
Hmm.
She just said habitat.
Or she said Emily.
Oh,
You said
Emily.
Emily, right?
Oh, Rocco.
Yeah, Rocco, yep. So anyways, there's a lot of stuff here, and we still need to dig into a lot of it, but I think we got a lot of useful tools and useful feedback from our work with HR, and so it's all positive.
Good.
Okay, next thing is the New York State Pro Housing Communities Program, which John has been trying to work on.
Spinning those on.
Yeah,
So we're registered, at the portal, we have a Woodstock thing to upload data, and I met with, Bill, almost 2 weeks ago. He said there's been some turnover, the main secretary in the building department
oh,
has resigned, and they're trying
Oh,
to train a
good.
new person, so that might have slowed it down.
okay.
But, and I think the main inspector has had some health issues. So, but that's also the case that it's not always really responsive when we try to get stuff, and so we're in the stage where when we can get the information about permits over the last 5 years, we can upload that. There's some stuff to fill out on zoning that we'll need help with, and then we have the portal and we can upload it, and we can start the conversation with the state
Yeah.
people about, is this what you need, and how do we have to change it? And I've told them that, you know, once they show me where the stuff is, which I think is not on a computer, but it's in a
that
file
right?
drawer. You,
It's a
you,
paper.
you go in and you flip through and you find the ones that are changing the amount of housing that exists, and then you're recording a certain amount of information about it. And so, to be honest, it's not a huge job, I don't think, because it's a
There aren't that
relatively small
many,
town, and we're
yeah.
not doing like putting on a deck or something, it's only ones that are really
It's only new
construction or
construction.
expansion renovations that increase the number of bedrooms or something like that. Because the state only cares about the number of beds, is sort of is the way you think about it. And then the zoning information I haven't dug into, but maybe I could start on that online just by using what Woodstock posts. And
Kai said he would help with that too. I
Yeah,
didn't, I
he
didn't
did,
look
I
at
sort
the
of-
section about the zoning, so I'm not sure what.
basically, you have every kind of zoning category, is a line of data, and then you have certain things about it that you're trying to fill in, and I don't know what the status is of the town board's decision on the zoning changes, if they plan to act on that this summer, or if they're just gonna keep letting it incubate for a while. But anyway, if it's gonna change soon, it'd be kind of nice to put in the new zoning rather than the
Right.
old zoning, so.
Well, I'm sure the state would like that, but my guess is you should just use what we have
Use what we
existing,
have, because
yeah.
that's adopted.
Right.
So then the idea is the state, this then creates a sort of a picture of Woodstock, right?
They don't care about Woodstock as much as the state.
Well,
And so
that's what I'm wondering.
They're
how-
trying to understand, you know, patterns that transcend particular communities, and so they're basically created this program to exchange data for the right to apply for grants. And so they're trying to coordinate their data with other states as well, and get this uniform data set where they have more precise information on what kind of housing is being built where. And so we'd be a little part of that story, but they're not trying to use the data to help us understand ourselves or anything. They're going to integrate it with the rest of the state and with other states just to try to understand housing development better and housing zoning better.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a data collection effort. And this is just the carrot, right? To,
And who's the agency in the state that's handling it? Is it the Department of State, Office of Local
Yeah.
Government?
Well, why don't you guys keep going? I can
Okay.
dig that up.
Well, it's not.
It's a special.
Because there is this, Department of Local Government, and Department of State that usually does planning and zoning and, sometimes.
It's the New York State's Department of Homes and Community Renewal.
Oh, okay. That's a different one.
Did you see how fast I?
that was good. I did upload the resolution to the portal today,
Oh, good.
so that's in there now. Along with our letter of intent, so we have two things in.
The portable broke.
They're making a mistake. Because they want data, so they want communities to adopt this. And they made the language that the towns have to adopt a little bit more controversial than they needed to make it. Because I can find parts of that proposal that I wouldn't really think make sense, but it doesn't matter. You're adopting it because they're making you in order to get a chance to get $2.5 million, but that proposal doesn't bind you to anything. So then you have places like Saugerties who are saying, oh, we don't want to do this.
Right.
But
It's not.
It's
Right,
just-
but it's not a requirement to
and
do
so
anything.
the state shouldn't have made,
I
they shouldn't have made the language as,
Yeah.
as sort of annoying as they did.
I agree. Oh, well.
Maybe it was done by AI.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it would have been in their interest because they want more and more data. So if towns are saying
Right.
no because of the language they put in there, this kind of.
True.
Bureaucracy, just make it.
That's it's
Yeah.
good feedback they ought to get,
Yeah,
seriously.
add
Yeah,
another
yeah.
document to the portal.
By
After
the way,
Yeah, exactly.
we know we have.
formal critique.
So, Deborah, thank you, Donna, for doing that.
Yeah, that's.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, they haven't accomplished a single thing.
Okay, well, we're trying, actually.
Identify the agency that.
So-
That months ago.
What was turned into a studio because of the square footage back into a guest house, so would that be considered one of the things that you include? Because there is a guest house now, so.
If it added
Bedroom.
a bedroom, yes.
Well, I guess it did, because it was a studio and now it's a guest house. So
It'll
there's
say
a
that on
bathroom.
This is the kind of thing we're gonna have to
It would
not
say
spend too
that-
much time on, but hopefully not spend too much time on, but there's gonna be some judgment calls in there when people are doing renovations and you don't know if it really renovated it up or renovated it
The
down.
building inspector has it because they have to categorize. So
Yeah.
That's where you get that.
They do use computers for more reasons.
I talked to Bill about that. He said that most of the people in the staff don't use computers and that they have to, when you fill out a housing application or permit application, you do hard copy and it goes, it stays as hard copy and someone gets paid to scan it, but it's just a PDF. There's nothing in there. There's no computer system for permitting data, which just seems very inefficient.
Yeah, we tried to address that.
It's also not very customer friendly. This is something
Right.
you download the forms and
Right.
fill them out online.
GIS, it shows improvements, and then if you've had a permitted improvement, it's in there, like when you look on the
Parcel viewer.
parcel viewer, yeah.
But that's
That's
Ulster
true.
County.
That's also.
Yeah, that's
county
also
or
county.
something.
But they
So
don't
someone is
show
giving them the
that.
data and they're putting it in the computer, but if you go
Right.
to Woodstock and you want to get a permit, you
Huh.
probably have to stop by the office or print all out.
Right, but they must have some kind of communication with the county, because it goes into the county, it takes like a year, but it does.
But, I got us off track here talking about the town board.
Sorry.
That's okay.
But, the town computer system,
Right.
but it's gonna make this process a little bit slower than
Right.
it could.
I just one other point, since we're, again, kind of like with the language in the pro-housing thing.
Resolution.
No, that the state kind of put in some language that wasn't really helpful.
That was in the resolution that they forced us to pass.
Right, but that was the state's language.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
so what I'm saying is similarly, as you're going through this process and you're discovering that the system really isn't what it needs to be in order to, whether it's for you to access this data or for you to understand, so just as the town is now considering happily updating its website, it's probably good for them to get some feedback that they ought to look at the system there in the building department to update it and get
So
it.
you're saying that John should provide this feedback?
I think the feedback.
I gave it to Bill, I said, it would be so much better I'm sure you can buy off the shelf software for permits, you know,
Yeah,
there's every
exactly.
town has this, and
Right.
so. And yet he said, well, you know, most of our staff are really, you know, old and aren't that computer literate, and so, including me, he said.
He's not that old.
I'm not sure that, well, I would maybe even take it to a larger audience, but that's
Sure.
at
Well,
some point.
yeah,
Either here.
we should move on to the
Okay.
Community Preservation Act, because Deborah and I had a really good meeting with Sarah Hanna and her chief of staff.
Yeah,
And who else was there?
That's so cool. the opportunity for-
Yeah,
and Bill was there for part of
and
the
Bill, yep.
meeting. And prior to that, I had a meeting with Michelle Hinchy's chief of staff and one of her staff members, because we had brought this issue to her in right after she got elected, so it would have been
22, right?
20, no, I think it was 2021, because it was 2020 that she ran, and 2021 was when she started, so that's how long ago. And then she had multiple staff changes and all kinds of things happen, and the ball kind of got dropped by them, actually. But the idea was to take, to create a community preservation act authority that's town specific, for which you have to go to the legislature and ask them, both the assembly and the senate, to create what they call a message of necessity. So the town board would have to advance that and make the request. And the request would be for a bill that we would be looking at for both open space and housing, so through real estate transfer tax. And the way the current Hudson Valley Community Preservation Act works, which is just for open space right now, is that it's the town, once it gets the authority, it has to pass a permissive referendum, a vote in the town to approve it, and then the town has the ability, working with the community, and I think they have to put this in the referendum, how much they would do it. So it'd be from, I think it's from either a quarter or 0.5% up to 2%. So like, for instance, in New Paltz, it's like 1.5%. And
Who pays it? The buyer or the
so,
seller?
so the buyer pays this tax, but it's only for the portion of the purchase price above the median price, county price. So if, let's say, the median county home price is, let's just make up a number, $500,000, or is, and the county does keep that information, that data, and then it's updated periodically. So let's say the county's median price is 500,000 and somebody pays 700,000 for a house, you know, in Woodstock, because we're talking about Woodstock. So that 200,000, the only part that would be subject to this small percentage tax,
1.5%.
whatever it would be that $200,000. So that people who are buying sort of more moderately priced houses wouldn't have to pay. And I spoke with the folks in New Paltz since we met.
Oh, okay.
And there's a reason why they use county data, because towns don't have the data. Towns don't have the staff. This is New Paltz, which is 20,000 people
Right.
versus Woodstock, which is 6,800 people. So it makes sense that it's done the way it's done. And it also is a much more equitable in terms of the community. And then also the idea is that when people buy property or a house in a town, and that money, small amount, goes into a fund for housing and open space, it's a contribution that they're making to the community. So it's not like it's going into somebody's salary, which wouldn't be not always bad, but it's not going to somebody's pocket. It's specifically designated for these purposes, and the town has to actually outline what those purposes are. So it sounds complicated first, right? and has put together a plan and a committee, and it's all spelled out. And so we were exploring with, Assembly Member Sarah Hanna and her staff, who are very interested in doing this type of bill, and working with the town if we want to proceed. And they're also in touch with Senator Hinch's office, and I'm going to speak with her about that. And actually, you know, this is a good time of year because the session, they're out of session. So
When does the session start?
January.
Oh. good.
So this is the time when bills are worked on, and budgets are worked on, and all kinds of things happen when the legislature is not in session. And so it was very encouraging to speak with both of these legislative offices, and we're going to be, I think after they speak with Michelle Hinch's office, I'm sending them some notes from a long time ago, because even Hinch's office didn't have some of that information from 3 years ago.
Right.
Question, was it a state law or they had their own?
No,
transfer tax
so-
laws?
Same thing, right?
So it's a little different. So Red Hook did their own law, very much the way we're doing it. They did not, however, at that time, consider housing, and now they're trying to add housing back in. They're actually using funds, figuring out how to use funds for housing as well as for open space. But they were one of the first towns to do this as an individual town. Then there was a Hudson Valley CPA passed, and then when I worked in the Senate, we worked on it for the different counties, and Ulster County signed on to it. So, but that doesn't include housing. Interestingly, New Paltz is also interested in looking at housing again, which is not in their current CPA. So, and one other thing I just want to say is some legislators have created a separate bill that's a real estate transfer tax just for housing. The problem there, in my opinion, is,
This is the community housing fund.
yeah, then you're having multiple funds, multiple taxes. And again, for a small town like Woodstock or Red Hook or New Paltz, it really helps them if you can have it under one umbrella, and then the town itself decides in its planning and designation where the funds are needed. And it's done in conjunction with other stakeholders in the community. So it isn't something that's just done by a town board or a committee. And that's part of the language in the bill, of how that is all set out, how that process is set out. It's really good. I hope we can consider it. I think it's very worth.
It'd be nice to see if the county had the data to do a simulation of what a town would net from.
Yeah,
idea.
That's a
You
good
know,
idea.
without knowing that,
because
you don't
it's-
really know what you're voting. for.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting because way back, Jeremy Wilbur was supervisor, he and I talked about this, and he literally took an envelope, and on the back of an envelope, he looked up what the house sales were in the town, what the approximate,
What was
from
the
your
percentage?
form.
But anyway.
Yeah.
we
I don't
could-
know, and he might have done like a 1% or something, but the point is that it is very useful, even if it's just an estimate. Obviously, it's based on, you're not basing it on something that happened years ago, you're basing it on
No, you
months
could
and months of
calculate
data.
it, you could get the median income, but it's just, I assume this is gonna be not a trivial process, because the first state has to let you do it, and then I suppose the town would have to put it in front of the voters. And
Well, that's exactly right.
And
It's first,
so,
the state has to give the town the authority to put it in front of the voters. That's the way the process works. It wouldn't happen unless the town asks the state to do that. And then the town would then have the authority to put it before the voters. So that's the process, sorry.
But isn't the transfer tax already, isn't that part of a sale? Don't we
No.
pay us transfer tax
No.
now?
Not for this purpose.
There's no transfer tax at all. I thought there was a.
There is in New York City, and
Not
Yeah,
in
not
Woodstock.
here.
No? Can't remember if I
House 4
paid
years ago.
transfer tax when I bought my house.
So it
So many
is.
fees.
but it seems like New York State's a little bit behind other states right now in trying to support housing outside of the major urban areas, and I think they're hopefully realizing they're playing catch up here, but this is where a lot of the need is.
Massachusetts had this bill like 10 years ago, right? And that's why so many of the towns in Massachusetts, all the way out onto the Cape, have been able to have funds available to do these kinds of projects.
But New York State is trying to, there is a bill in the legislature for the community housing fund. Correct, but it's, it hasn't moved yet. I don't know if it's stuck or if it's.
You know, there's always, so I love the idea of doing these bills on a statewide basis and on some level. On another level, I think it's really hard to get a bill passed for the whole state.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of interest that'll pop out of the woodwork and say, you can't do this, you can't do that. Whereas if a town asks for something, I mean, unless it's illegal, obviously, but if it's legal, if they're asking for the authority to do something, it doesn't affect, you know, then you don't have to get into the.
Right, everybody else.
So.
Well, this could be faster, the CPA versus the CHF. Because it's, the whole state has to pass this, it can take forever. So
And then
for
how
us,
the monies then come to the town?
well, it's a local fund, it's a community housing.
So it
Yeah.
then lets.
It's the same,
town
it's transfer
have
tax.
its own.
So this is a way to create our little pot of funding for housing,
But just for housing.
just for housing, not for open space. So- Okay, thanks,
Right,
Deborah.
it's more than 5 minutes.
All right, well, we'll go quickly on the ARPA funds because we should have received a draft of a letter from you last week and then Jonathan.
I thought it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah.
Good job, very persuasive.
Good job.
Yeah,
We just have
I
to
like, yeah, that's
good.
I have a question about the 199,000 that we're allocating. Because I'm about ready to kind of impose this specification, this RFP for the.
Well, I wouldn't
But-
do that yet.
I'm not, but I'm just trying to get the things that we want to have covered. And some of these things are going to be expensive. For instance, for geology, that's going to require soil borings, which means they have to have a rig drive on the site and do soil borings.
Well, Dennis Doyle
Yeah.
seemed to think that we could, what we were talking about would cost 130,000, that was his estimate.
For one site?
No, for all the sites,
Oh,
that's what he thought.
and when he says all, how many is all?
Well, this is why I wanted to talk about setting up a planning subcommittee meeting, because we're running out of time here and it's too much nitty gritty for the
Yeah.
meeting, so.
I think I'm gonna do, yeah.
What are people's availability next week? I'm pretty flexible.
Next week's pretty bad for me.
Yeah, it's bad, okay.
Monday, would be good. If it's early,
Okay.
and Thursday early,
Monday, Thursday, early.
the rest isn't good.
Monday's probably better for me. My daughter's coming from LA on Saturday, so I'm furiously, and we're still renovating her house, so Thursday's not gonna be a good day for me, I can tell you that.
Well,
Monday?
I'm pretty open. Monday the 5th?
Yes.
I'm
Lisa?
available.
That should be okay. I just don't know when my son's coming back and I might have to go to the airport. But
Oh.
that's always a mystery. It's
Okay.
always like, I'm sending him home now, like I would never.
Yeah.
Um,
Deborah, you probably have to work for.
I am working, but I have some flexibility on Monday, my intern's away,
Okay,
and,
so what time is good on Monday morning?
We do it at 8:30 in the morning.
Sure, let's do 9. So that's
9.
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Where?
on Zoom.
Zoom, okay.
Great. That was Zoom. Great. Okay, what's next? Oh. So I'm proposing that we cancel the August meeting because we all have our tasks to do over the next month and a half or so.
And family coming.
And family
My
coming,
daughter's
I know your
coming.
daughter's coming too, my daughter's coming.
I'd like to insist that we meet.
And it's the last week of August.
My daughter's
Oh,
leaving.
please do that. You should. Okay.
So if everybody's okay, I'll cancel that meeting, but let's just keep going on our things that we're working on. I think it'll be good. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is Volunteer Day on August 17th, which if you haven't been before, is kind of fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
And the fireworks are awesome.
They have fireworks.
Go fireworks. That's why we.
Oh, right, of course.
Yeah, and it's outside
Yeah,
our
but
back.
everybody goes, there's like hundreds of things.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
If you were gonna pick the part of the day to go, is that the most fun? The fireworks?
I
It's
don't
not
know if
bad.
I
They're at
was
9
like,
o'clock and they're late.
And
They're at 9
last year
o'clock.
we did sort of a table,
usually we meet for lunch.
because they give us, all the volunteers are invited.
And then you can come back to the fireworks.
Yeah, and then come back.
Yeah.
Fireworks are awesome. Bring a chair, sit in the field, and they're right on top of it. It's
The
amazing.
only fireworks, we had a tradition in Benicia, we would go to Margaretville every year for the fireworks. Has anyone ever been there?
Yeah,
Hmm,
yeah, they're pretty cool.
They're pretty fun.
You used to live in Phoenicia?
No, we moved 5 years ago.
You're in Willow, right? Or Lakeville?
Thank you.
Oh, you're at Lakeville. We should get together sometime. I was thinking we should commute
Did
together, probably.
did
this-
you
to
leave
this
today when it
meeting.
was like a down? It was
Yes,
like-
I got here and it was pouring, I was trying to
Yeah.
unlock the back door.
What does that sound?
I think the picnic's
It's
a
an
nice
alarm.
idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
for the
Just like picnic,
lunchtime.
like, community picnic at
Yeah.
lunchtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
what
it's
time-
birthday.
so
I
what
think
time
it's
should we meet?
programming.
It's on the 17th.
There's a building that we have at the library.
Noon is
Thing goes off all the
when
time.
they-
Something.
Yeah,
Right?
From
Wow,
straight up.
from the volunteer day this year, so it's
Oh.
kind of weird.
Would you say they're volunteer?
Usually we get an email from
Yeah.
a committee and it says, how many people from your
Oh.
volunteer committee? are
Oh,
coming?" So they don't have
interesting.
any-
Yeah, I haven't.
I wonder if they
Meals on
haven't,
Wheels is what
maybe
I've done
they're
before.
behind schedule.
But I'd love to have a committee lunches.
Yeah, so I guess, let me see if I can figure out if they're
Okay.
actually offering lunch this year, since. it's
Okay.
kind of
We
weird
could
that I-
bring our own.
Or we could just do it
Right,
all.
right, yeah,
Mhm.
that's true. All right, well, my family's there that day, so it's gonna be a little crazy for me. My parents are very elderly,
My
but
son will be here.
I'll just come
He's
in
from-
for half an hour and see you guys.
Yeah.
And feel free to bring spouses and partners. So what should we say, like 12 or 12:30, 12:30, 12:30?
You need that,
That was that was
17th,
17th.
it's just Annie Field, yeah. Okay. So,
that's the community center, right?
yes.
I
Usually
probably
there's
won't
like
be
a big
meeting with you
tent
guys
right
there.
next to the community center.
What?
Denise.
What's
Tanisha?
the issue?
I won't be meeting you guys there. My daughter moves into
Aw.
college that weekend, so
Okay. That's too bad.
We'll miss
I'll
you.
be
Yes.
upset and you guys enjoy and have fun and I'll be crying.
Yeah. Oh.
We'll raise a cup to you.
Yeah. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
A motion that we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Bye.
Hi.
Okay.
And we start very procedurally and we end very procedurally.
Exactly.
Everybody's-
Everybody- We should be making more motions as we go along, but somehow I forget.
Well.
Somebody can remind me.
At least it's not raining yet.
No. The phone ringing is so bad.
There.
So my husband